What is up, everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York, calling from the quarantine zone again, and this time we return with Fernando of Moonspell. Great to be able to talk with you again, almost 3 years later.
That's true. It's tempus fugit, time flies, and right now we are definitely on the quarantine zone as well in Portugal. As we were talking off record, it's a major lockdown in Portugal. Small country, but lots of cases. So yeah, we're just hoping for the best, preparing for the worst, but not giving up without putting up a good fight.
Absolutely. I like the attitude, and that's what we need more than ever. And we have something to look forward to with the release of the brand new Moonspell album, Hermitage, coming out very soon. Thank you for giving us new music to, get through these difficult times. Do you consider this just a continuation from what we heard off of 1755, or do you think that this is almost like a new beginning for Moonspell in a way?
I'll say it falls more into the latter category, a new beginning. Moonspell, it's sometimes I think it's a weird band. We never had the luck, or we're never smart enough to find a formula and stick to it. It seems like the most unhappy people about our music are ourselves. We're always changing, we're always trying different stuff, but it has to do also with the way that we are into music. And sometimes what we express with Extinct or 1755 is definitely not the kind of music we wanted to go with Hermitage. And obviously, this obeys to a lot of reasons, from bands we rediscover, from bands we listen to, from the subject of the album, but also by the conviction that, honestly, I love metal, but sometimes, especially on this kind of more symphonic style, it seems like everybody's trying too hard. Like the drummer is hitting a lot of notes, the singer is like, or she or he is like, giving the best performance, and sometimes it lacks what makes an album credible, which is dynamics, which is exactly what we did with Hermitage. It's more like of a sonic journey that combines a little bit of everything, from Maiden riffs up to a huge Pink Floyd guitar influence, to all these space loops, etc. So it's a big melting pot. It might resemble some stuff we already did in the past, but it has some novelty into it, and we kind of like that. I know sometimes we divide people, but sometimes we surprise them too. And being surprised these days, I think it's a cool thing.
Yeah. Well, as a fan of Moonspell, I mean, if you were to play me like 30 seconds or a minute of a song, I'd be able to tell that that's off of Extinct, or that's off of Night Eternal, or that's off of Wolfhard, or, Darkness and Hope, etc. So it almost seems like taking a new approach to every album and constantly evolving is just part of the Moonspell songwriting process, right?
I think so. I mean, we think a lot about it, and the stuff we read, stuff people tell us, is that we know that we can't make everyone happy, and it's just the dynamics we started. And even if people sometimes they are surprised, I say, well, if you do it right, when you look to the past repertoire, we always have these ups and lows when it comes to the music. Sometimes when it's more intense, the next album is going to be more atmospheric. It's almost predictable and unpredictable at the same time. And obviously, like any band, we, especially coming from Portugal, the metal scene in Portugal is always about being the Portuguese Pantera, the Portuguese Sepultura, the Portuguese Paradise Lost. And even though we have a lot of diverse influences and a lot of important influences, we really wanted to be Moonspell. It was a kind of big shoes to fill for a Portuguese band to have a sound that is designed to be our own, that we can transform the stuff we listen, the stuff we care about musically into something of our own. But I think when you listen, even, our 13th studio album, you will see, like it or not, well, this is Moonspell. Maybe not so fast, maybe not so melodic. It doesn't matter. It's still like the signature sound that we were looking for. So best compliment is when people say, "Well, it just sounds like Moonspell," and I think that's awesome to when you hear this, because it might seem like a simple-minded comment, but it's the best you can say about the band, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think what's interesting is that you have the best of both worlds. I think like you've always had a sound that the long running fans since the Wolfheart days have always resonated with. But I think you've always demonstrated evolution, and you were always able. Like I didn't discover you until the Extinct record cycle. That's what I discovered you on. And to go from a song like "Breathe" Until We Are No More to a track like "Extinct" that has completely different vibes. I'm like, you're always a band that makes me wonder what is going to come next. How is Moonspell going to evolve this time? You know what I mean?
I think that's what keeps us going. We don't know. Absolutely. I think that I remember very well when we did Wolfart back in '95. I was quite happy about the album because it was a well done record. It was professional. It became a little bit. It attained a little bit the status of a legendary album for European black metal and metal with all these big cauldron of influences. But I remember thinking exactly like almost 20 years, 25 years ago, where are we going next? And, sometimes it's just the way it shows itself. And I think I'm not too concerned about where we're going next because I think, it's an answer that will unwrap by itself. We are a band that sometimes doesn't have too many strings attached, if you know what I mean. It's a band that we really don't have a plan, especially musically. We have intention, we have a kind of ideas we'd like to go here and there, but in the end of the day, for instance, we kind of had a plan of picking up from Extinct, but in the end of the day, we just get carried away and did the Portuguese metal album, and then did Hermitage, which resembles not that much as the original plan to follow up Extinct with an English album, more melodic, more atmospheric. So yeah, we don't plan ahead when it comes to music. It's just a question of finding an interesting subject to write about, the lyrics, and then with those almost like a scriptwriter tips, I do the lyric and say, well, this song sounds to me like this or that, and Pedro and Ricardo go and they can produce the right musical context for it. So it's kind of the process that we have. It's obviously sometimes it's the other way around, but it's not something that we go to the studio and just break our brains until a riff comes out. There's always something that we think about in a more relaxed form with no pressure, and then eventually it ends up, if it's interesting enough, to become our next album.
Yeah, and I remember we talked about this on the Amorphous Omnium Gatherum tour, where when we spoke, it was kind of like I know that 1755 was about like a catastrophic event, like that's what it was about an earthquake that it was a very apocalyptic sort of scenario, and I know that like Extinct had kind of some more personal elements, and you mentioned, do you think of these concepts usually beforehand, and that influences the music itself? It obviously influences the lyrics, but do you feel that that could also play a role into the sound of the music?
I believe that in Moonspell, that is so. The first time I wrote Hermitage on a notebook was 2017. We were kind of wrapping 1755. And if you look to 1755, which is an album that people are probably more familiar with, it really sounds like an earthquake. It's so urgent, it's so fast, has me shouting amidst the ruins in my own native language. It transports this kind of feeling into people. So I think that to attain this visuality that we would like to, because I like to listen to music, and I like when the music makes me kind of see things. It doesn't matter the style, and I think heavy metal is really good, and that you just start seeing stuff. Not that you're crazy, but that music kind of transports you into that. I think it's from all the genres, it's something that rather only that entertain you, makes it more cinematic in a way. So it's important to have this kind of vibe going on, because it's different to start writing an album, just for the sake of it, for the sake of writing music, than having an album that we say, hey, we're gonna speak about hermits, we're gonna speak about saints, we're gonna speak about solitude. That sets the tone for the music. It will be more doomy, more depressive, darker, gloomier. If we went to see or to talk about an earthquake, it's going to be more operatic. It's going to be more epic. I think that's actually very important for that kind of pre time where there's nothing, and then I come up. Well, this album is going to be about this, and we always happen to have this conversation. And sometimes I throw stuff, but it's not so interesting. So there's a little bit of a consensus. So when I threw like the earthquake theme or the Hermitage theme, the other Moonspell members reacted really well. And I said, well, this is something that we can definitely write music about.
Is that why with Hermitage, the first three singles that you released are the first three songs, like just to kind of like maybe engage the listener into the narrative of the album?
Well, maybe so, but it's very hard. Hermitage, like many of the Moonspell albums, it's something that it's a kind of a journey through many chapters. Let's call it this way. And I think that the whole album sets the mood for the complete experience. Obviously, you have to introduce your album. Obviously, you have to pick up songs, to release up front and to make the videos as well. But it was quite a coincidence that the first three songs on the album that set the narrative of the album are also the three first songs that we pick up as a video. The next song will not be song number 4 in the album, but I think it's song number 6 or 7, if I'm not mistaken, The Hermit Saint. So it's a hard choice because you have to release an album. There's all these patterns of releasing, and sometimes people like, oh, I don't like this, and then the other day, okay, I like this. It's a very no can win experience, because for a band that doesn't rely only in one spectacular song and the rest of the album is so and people will love it. They will listen to that song. That's not the. Of course, we have our famous songs. Of course, there will be favorites, crowd favorites on this album. But it's hard for us to convey the whole narrative of the album just with 3 songs. That's why also in pandemic times we felt that with the lack of shows we have to have more visual material for the people. Normally in 1755 we had a couple of videos. In next thing we had 2 videos, but this time around we'll have 4 or more videos. Let's see, not that the budget has expanded, but we are smarter about it. And I think it's important for people also to have like this visual thing in order to place the song in their experience of the album.
Yeah, what's interesting is that you have all these narratives for each album, but I also think that a listener can approach the album from different angles. Obviously, I recommend if you're going to listen to Hermitage, start off with The Greater Good and end with City Quitter for the outro. But like, I feel like that a person could start off like with Hermitage. They could start off with the Hermit Saints. They could start off with Common Prayers. I feel like your albums are what I say, very shuffle friendly.
Yeah, it's always, I wouldn't say it's a fight, but sometimes I was the one deciding the track list. This time around I let Pedro and Ricardo decide because they wrote most of the music, and not that I couldn't decide, but I agree with you. It's an album that is hard to combine because a lot of the songs, even though they work together, they could work in a different disposition, definitely. Hermit Saints is one of my favorite songs, and I wouldn't mind to start an album, obviously, as a singer, just with this cool vocal piece that it kicks off the song. We could start it simple, but I think The Greater Good, it's a nice start because it's a kind of a song that kind of takes you by surprise, especially with harmonized vocals and the more psychedelic, dark rock kind of approach. But then it really stings in the end. It really gives you like the Moonspell flavor, the more epic flavor. So I think it was definitely a song that I really like, and that really, when I was listening to the mix, I was jumping on my on my seat, because yeah, I think that this really epitomizes most of the album. But that's something cool with the vinyl. The vinyl is so divided. It's a double vinyl, so you have all these four sides, and one of the sides starts with Hermitage, and it's a really enjoyable experience as well.
Hmm. And when it comes to thinking of these concepts and these storylines and these narratives, I mean, do you like, does it have to personally relate to you? Does it almost have to serve as like something that's an external metaphor of a personal experience that you've had? Or has the music always just been a means of escape? Or is there like a lot of research outside of yourself to come up with these ideas?
I think nowadays it's more personalized than ever. I wouldn't say it's like an autobiography, but I think meaningful music has to tell a little bit about the people behind it, and it has to do also with my soul journey. In a way, I started off writing a lot of lyrics about the occult world, satanism, all of that. And when I joined the philosophy degree here at Lisbon, I started looking at things under a different perspective, more classic, more academic, more in a way more trying to criticize it, but by understanding it and not just for the sake of it, because it's the motto of a life or of a lifestyle, or is the motto of the music I listen to. And I think I arrived to a place with the Hermitage that it's quite personal. It has to do also with my wish of abandoning the speed of the world that is so fast. We live under pressure every day, even in lockdown. Kids are at school, being online schooled. You have to go and you have to work and you have to take care of the kid at the same time. So we live in a world that kind of just pulls us throughout everything. They grab our hair, they grab our leg. You gotta work, you gotta be famous, you gotta do more songs, you gotta fight. And I think Hermitage for me, it's a place of making decisions, of being alone with yourself, a place of solitude. Not that I want to do like the saints and go there to the desert and just be there for the rest of my life and not care about anything else, even though sometimes it sounds like a really cool idea, But it's also about what I can learn when outside the will. And I think that's something that has to do with my personal experience. I was really a lot, and I still am, in the early days about singing about literature, singing about the great literary beasts like Dracula, Frankenstein, horror, Lovecraft. This time around, I think that we will live in a world where reality is so much stranger than any fiction we could come up with. That I think it's almost unavoidable that I will focus in the world around me, metaphorically, obviously, but also dealing with the social aspects of the world, with the philosophical aspects of the world. I wouldn't say political, because I think politics are not about doing the right thing. It's more about not doing the wrong thing, so you don't lose your voting bases, etc. So it's weird for me to sing about it, but I sing about us, all of us, and I think a lot of people right now, especially with this pandemic, would like to have their place of absolute peace and freedom, and that's what Hermitage means as well. Normally, we come out of a time with ourselves stronger and more motivated, I think, and I think that's also an underlying message for this album, which I think became important also on the context and the situation, the big sanitary, health, economic, social crisis we're living in everywhere in the world. Nobody can say right now that we are at a good place, because we're not.
Yeah, it just seems like, all this inspiration, because, there's times where like artists, they can't write lyrics, they can't write vocals until there's 10, 15 songs written already, the music, and then that's how they feel their inspiration. But it almost seems like you looking out into the world, or you doing research, or experiencing life at first hand is almost just part of your songwriting process. Like that is part of the album.
Yeah, I mean, I don't write much music or any. Sometimes I go and do some vocal lines that they will use. So it's my part of pinching in as well, because sometimes it's just lyrics fall short because music is what people are going to absorb, and lyrics are for many bands like a secondary thing. But I always loved lyrics. I always thought they complemented really well, and whenever I get a record, a vinyl, or a CD, I immediately read the lyrics, and that helps me to know better the mind behind the song. So I always loved great lyric writers like Quorthon from Bathory, Johan Hedlund from Tiamat, Danny Field from Cradlefield. He writes beautiful, like traditional, poetic, and dark lyrics. So yeah, I think that metal for me never was a genre that I could just enjoy for the sake of music. I remember Maiden having lyrics and musicating poems from John Coleridge, Rime of the Ancient Mariner. I remember Metallica having Hemingway influences from Whom the Bell Tolls. Right of Cthulhu, Call of Cthulhu, Lovecraft. I always found words, literature, poetry very connected with music, and not in a relation of just I'm going to write all these riffs, just throw some metrics over there, throw some words, put some words together. Sometimes it works, but that's not the way I approach lyric writing. Both as a lyric writer and also as someone that heavily reads into music as well.
Yeah, and it seems like it comes from multiple angles, and inspiration sometimes strikes when you least expect it as well.
That's true. Some people carry notebooks. There's even novels about people that are just sleeping and then they wake up to write their masterpiece, and it's something really connected with lyrics, because sometimes to write music you need a guitar, you need a piano, you need to set up a studio. Nowadays with technology you can sing it to your phone, whatever, but lyrics is just that you have to wake up and write them down and stuff like that, because it's not a very intuitive memory like sound. It's something that you really have to note and put down on paper so that you don't miss the chance of writing something cool.
Yeah, absolutely. So before we go, I want to thank you so much for your time. It was great to be able to catch up with you.
No
And
problem.
is there just anything else with the release of Hermitage? Like obviously, thanks to the certain virus that shall not be named on my outlet, obviously shows aren't happening at the moment. But can we maybe be like to hold your dedicated fan base over, maybe like a live stream performance to promote the release of this, or anything else you would like to promote for Moonspell?
Well, I mean, Hermitage is coming out 26th of February. It's going really well with the pre-sale, and then people have more time to listen to music. I think listen to music, not only Moonspell, but the bands you love, the bands you dedicate a lot of your time and money to it. It's more important than ever. This kind of company that music provides you, it's something that it's sometimes, even though you cannot enjoy it temporarily on a live stage, sometimes you can really discover a lot about music and musicians and bands when you are, for instance, at home. So obviously our plans were a bit ruined. 2020 was, which we could play 4 shows. One of them we made a streaming that was really cool. So right now our movements are really controlled in Portugal. We cannot do a lot up to the end of March. But after the end of March, you stay tuned on the Napalm website and also Moonspell website and social networking. We'll probably do a kind of a special show playing the whole of Hermitage as well, together with some of other songs, probably a very impromptu, very, let's say, out of the box set list. And for sure we're going to play it in Portugal until we can travel abroad. And I think a new streaming around May or July or May or June will be available for the fans worldwide, because even though it's not the perfect way of being with the fans, it's better than nothing. and it's also a chance that we don't fall off our dedicated fan bases fall off their radar. So I'd like to thank you for the interview. Wish you and everybody that is going to watch, read, listen to this health and luck. I think that's in music. That's what we need the most for the time being. And we definitely can wait to get back overseas and play for everybody that's giving us, so much support since the 90s, right there in the U.S., not only in New York, but in all other cities that we were blessed enough to visit with touring. So we kind of miss touring. We're keeping it, trying to be sane, trying to reach the light at the end of the tunnel, and hopefully it's not a train. So we gotta stay fit so we can do this all together again.
Yeah, and we look forward to it. We're gonna enter a great era of music when this is all over. Just wait.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Waiting patiently.
Yeah, patience is a virtue. But thank you so much, everybody. Fernando of Moonspell Hermitage, coming out via Napalm Records, February 26th. Be sure to pick it up then. This is Alex from Heavy New York. We will see you next time.